This is Will Stewart from onlinechesslessons.net, and I'm going to be looking at a game from round 4. This is game 2 of round 4 of the 2011 FIDE World Chess Cup being held in Khanty-Mansiysk in Russia. And so this is Alexander Grischuk playing against his Russian compatriot, Mr. Potkin over here. And so these guys said they were old friends during the tournament. But I think Potkin said something like it's not going to stop him from beating Grischuk, something like that. So Grischuk plays f4 here. And so with c5, Potkin had won the first game between these guys. So he's got a big edge going into this knockout, in the second game. Grischuk has to win this game to stay alive. So Potkin playing the French here. Nice solid opening choice, nothing too crazy. And Grischuk, not surprisingly, I believe this is called the Steinitz variation. So Grischuk is playing an aggressive line against this, definitely. So I believe with b5, this idea is the Boleslavsky variation with black. And so knight d1. So Grischuk knight d1 is a weird move, but it makes sense. He sees b4 is going to happen, so he just goes ahead and plays knight d1. So Potkin plays b4 anyway. And also possible, there's some ideas, I believe Arthur Yusupov kind of started these ideas with playing g5 in some of these lines, but given Potkin's, he's already up a game, there's really no reason for him to risk so much in such a crazy idea. So b4, and so now c3. So this was, Grischuk is playing, to open the game back up. Other ways to play is kind of let black have the queen side, you could say, and white can play for the king side, f5, maybe a little bit later. But it's kind of tough because black has got so much pressure on white center. It's very difficult to play f5. So Grischuk instead just c3, trying to play more in the center, and rook b8. So trying to put some pressure on the b file, enticing b3. So queen a5. So Potkin's probably pretty happy here because he's getting good active piece play out of the opening. And Grischuk, it doesn't really seem like white has got so much going on. It seems like black's got the better activity. Here, Grischuk took some time. It seemed like everything before this was preparation, and here he spent about 20 minutes on rook c1, which, there's a lot of pressure in this situation. If castles, black's got to be happy with the pressure he's got on the position, but it seems like white's going to have a small pull due to the superior pawn structure and the fact that black's got this bishop on c8, which is trapped in a prison of his own pawns. So after queen a5, Grischuk wanted to put some pressure on the c file, and this knight is loose on c6. So maybe some way the rook on c1 is trying to eye that. So taking d4, and that exchange just kind of made sense for black before he was going to develop the dark square bishop. And so now, developing with tempo, freezing these pawns on white's queen side. And so castles, definitely time to get the king out, and knight a4. So Grischuk took about 10 minutes on this move, and this really, he got to the secret of the position. The first, when I first saw it, I was confused because, Grischuk has to win this game, and I thought in this position, just the natural idea would even be to play f5 instantly and sacrifice a pawn to open up lines to attack, or just castle and try to play f5, but maybe it's maybe f6 and it's too slow. It's too little, too late. So, when I first saw knight a4, I just assumed white was going to go for a kingside attack. But it makes sense because this bishop on c8 is so bad that, first off, trading off the queens would give, let's say something like this. Check, bishop b4 doesn't really do anything, even king e3. And let's say f6, maybe black's just going to play bishop g4, and I don't know. I mean, it's like somehow white is just clamped down on the entire position, and he's going to invade with the rook on c7, the point of everything. You know, that's really the point of trading off the queens to weaken the c7 square. So he's going to tie up all of black's pieces in the center and invade and probably try to double rooks on the c file. So really interesting, you know, Grischuk, even though I'm sure he didn't want to trade pieces that much, trading the queens would give him the c7 square and thus control of the 7th rank. Very interesting positional idea. Potkin, he played bishop b4. Kind of arguable, his choice here, but I mean, it's tough to criticize. So the problem is for black positionally, you know, long term, he's got a passed pawn. He's got a you know, supported passed pawn on d5. But this bishop, again, on c8 is trapped behind its own pawns, and it's very difficult to get it activated in this position. So the more that black, you know, if white, you know, Grischuk can trade off the bishop, the dark squared bishop, and the queen, black won't have any pieces left to defend his weak dark squares, which are just the result of the structure. So that's the idea, you know, just the positional idea. He's going to have pressure for the whole game, whereas white, with his, you know, light square bishop, his pawn structure is on dark squares, so the bishop will have full mobility, you know, on both sides of the board. f6 by Potkin certainly made sense. Bishop g4 as well. Gotta put a little pressure. If black plays f5 again, I mean, positionally, this bishop is just stuck. Now the weakness on e6. There's a weakness on a6. And this bishop just hanging out on e2 is just going to be naturally putting pressure. So f5 is, you know, it would be kind of tough to commit the pawns there, as an exchange of dark square bishops is almost guaranteed right now. So rook e8 trying to defend. I'm sure he didn't want to play that, but there's just no alternative. So now exchanging, and Potkin, I mean, he didn't want to go into this. Well, I guess this simply doesn't work. I mean, yeah, okay, it does. I mean, this tactic here is not getting it done because of rook c1 picking up the rook. So, even still, I mean, it's really not a very fun position to play. Let's just say castles. That tactic's still going to be hanging in the air, and white just has a ridiculous amount of pressure in this position. Knight going to c5, you know, if knight f8, something like knight c5, I mean, just a lot of pressure. So Potkin wanted to keep the queen on a5 to guard the c7 square. And so maybe this kind of weakened his position, because now the queen is kind of unprotected on a5. There's a little bit of a pin here. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think this is kind of, it just feels awkward after rook takes b4. So, but it's understandable because, you know, if he can just play rook takes, if he can develop and challenge for the c file, or create counterplay with his rook, you know, no problem for black. You know, he's just trying to buy some time so he can get organized and then guard the c7 square as an entry point for white's rooks. So castling and bishop b7. Now this really didn't work because the tactic, white's just going to be up too much material. So bishop b7 and now a3. And bishop b7, I mean, Potkin only had 10 minutes here, but he spent 5 minutes on bishop b7. I think he maybe just got frustrated. I think he should have played f5. Now, his pawn in game, you know, that's not going to be really fun there. But I don't know. I mean, I just don't see... He needs to shut this bishop down with this pressure on e8, on e6. So bishop b7 was just a blunder because, I mean, I think you need to play f5, and I don't know. I mean, it's not going to be a fun endgame, and white is going to penetrate with the rooks, but maybe he's got a chance. After bishop b7, Grischuk just played a3, and this one's an exchange, because if rook b5, simply rook to c7, and there's nothing here. If bishop c8, the same tactic. And I mean, this is not going to be very fun for black. b4, for example, picks up that rook. Yeah, I mean, this is not going to be very fun for black. So that's, you know, why rook b5 didn't look so good. So instead, Potkin tried to defend actively, so, you know, sack the exchange. And he gets to trade queens, but Grischuk is too good, and he's too precise in this kind of situation. His killer instinct. He spends 10 minutes on this move, you know, calculating everything out so that he's definitely going to be playing the best moves in this critical situation now that the dust is cleared. So knight takes and bishop e2, so guarding the c4 square. You know, bishop h3 looks nice, keeping the pressure, but the knight is very comfortable on c4, and e5 is coming. So bishop e2, gotta guard the queens. I also putting a little pressure on a6. So rook c8, and now rook b2. And this at first seemed a little strange to me, because rook b1, you'd think, I don't know, I mean, maybe the rook's going to stay here and watch this, but Grischuk, very precise. He plays rook b2, and black is all of a sudden in some serious trouble. So he tries rook c7, and now rook b6, and this rook is perfectly placed, blocking the black king off from helping out with the defense. So after rook b6, now knight c4, and you know, maybe rook takes here, and I mean, black is probably lost here. But you know, I mean, he's threatening rook e8, and you know, it's not looking any better for black. But Grischuk, bishop g4, definitely an exclamation point. Very precise. You know, knight takes, just gets mated on the spot. Very good move with like 4 minutes left. So Potkin tried g6, but bishop g4, that wasn't everything. Grischuk calculated this out to a forced win. So takes, and no matter what black had done before, rook takes b7, and Potkin resigned here. So after bishop g4, it was all over. White was threatening mate, and I don't know, I mean, I guess, you know, rook e7 to stop it, but it just, maybe here, maybe rook takes e6 even, or even just, you know, rook b8. I mean, it's, bishop g4 was just killer, the idea with rook b6. So after this takes, Potkin resigned here because bishop takes, and this knight's too loose. Rook c1, a very clean tactic, and you know, I mean, this is just over. White's just up a clear piece. So what a great game by Grischuk with his back against the wall. He is it's got to be one of the most dangerous players in the world right now in this match style format. He's just too calm at the key moments when everything's on the line. So a really fantastic game ended by a great tactic by Grischuk. So this is Will Stewart from OnlineChessLessons.net, and thanks for tuning in.